It is summer, and you have a dozen ears of corn on the counter, and you do what everyone does. You fill the biggest pot you own with water. You wait for it to boil. You drop the corn in. 10 minutes later, you pull it out, and it is fine. It is good. But something is missing, and you have never quite been able to name it. The corn tastes a little washed out, a little flat. The deep, honeyed sweetness you remember from somewhere long ago is not quite there. So you drown it in butter and salt to make up for what is gone. Let me say it plainly. That missing sweetness did not vanish on its own. You poured it down the drain in the boiling water without ever knowing it was there. Come with me into my kitchen. My wife Yuki has an ear of corn, still in its green husk, and she does not fill a pot at all. She cooks it another way, gently, with almost no water, or with none, the husk still wrapped around it. And when she peels it back, the corn steams, and the smell alone stops you where you stand. Sweet, deep, almost like candy. That corn tastes the way corn is supposed to taste, and it needs no butter to hide behind, because nothing was ever taken from it. The trouble with boiled corn is not the corn. Understand that first. Sweet corn, fresh from a summer field, is one of the finest, cheapest pleasures there is. 25-50 cents an ear at a farm stand in season. The trouble is the boiling. When you drop sweet corn into a big pot of water, you take something rich with sugar and delicate flavor, and you soak it in a flood of water. And water, plainly, pulls flavor out. It leaches the sugars and the taste right out of the kernels and into the pot. Then you throw that pot of sweet water down the sink. You cooked the flavor out and poured it away, and you never saw it happen. Think about what that quiet habit cost you every summer of your life. Not so much in money. Corn is cheap, and that is part of its beauty. It cost you in something harder to name. It cost you the best of the corn. The deep flavor you keep chasing and covering with butter and salt was there all along, in every ear, and you have been rinsing it away in the boiling pot, year after year, and then paying it back in butter to fake the sweetness you threw out. Here in Japan, we cook corn with great care because we do not like to waste even the flavor of a thing. There is a way of cooking corn on a summer griddle that people line up for at festivals, brushed with soy sauce until it is smoky and sweet. And there are gentle ways to cook it at home that keep every drop of its sugar inside the kernel, where it belongs. These are simple ways. Anyone can do them tonight. And once you taste corn cooked so that nothing is lost, plainly, you will never fill that big pot of water again. My name is Kenji Takara. I am 81 years old, and I live in Okinawa, in the south of Japan. Yuki has cooked corn this careful way since she was a girl. Her mother taught her, and her mother's mother before that, in a time and a place where you did not throw away the sweetness of anything, because sweetness was rare and precious, and paid for with a season's work. To boil away the sugar of good corn and pour it down a drain would have seemed to them a small madness. We have a word here for the sorrow of waste, matenai, and there is a waste in the boiling pot that few people ever see, not a waste you can hold in your hand, but the waste of flavor itself, the goodness of the food dissolved into water and thrown away. That is the waste I want to end for you today. And there is another waste too, which I will show you at the end. The husk, the silk, even the bare cob, all thrown in the bin, when every one of them still has something to give. And here is the quiet truth no one thinks to tell you. There is no money in teaching you that the sweetest corn costs nothing extra, only a change in how you cook it. The big pot of boiling water is just habit, passed down without question, and habit asks for no payment and gives no reward. It simply keeps you from the best the corn had to offer. No one profits from your flat corn. You simply were never shown the better way. Quick word before I begin, and I won't bring it up again. Everything I share here, there's far more of it than fits in one video. So I gathered it all into one book, the Takara method. And right now I'm keeping it at a special price, lower than it'll normally be. The link's in the description, or point your phone at the code on screen. That's all. Now let me show you today's. By the end of this video, you will know 3 ways to cook corn so it keeps all its sweetness: steaming it, cooking it in its own husk, and the smoky Japanese grilled way, brushed with soy sauce. I will show you the plain science of why boiling robs the corn, the exact method for each way, the honest notes on which suits which corn, how to use the whole ear so nothing is wasted, and even a little of what it saves. So let us begin, and the first thing to understand is the one idea underneath all of it. Water pulls flavor out. So to keep the flavor in, we must keep the water away. Let me show you what I mean, starting with the simplest way of all. First, the science plainly. Why does boiling make corn taste flat when it seemed like the natural thing to do? Sweet corn is sweet because its kernels are full of natural sugars and full of water-soluble flavor. That word matters, water-soluble. It means these sugars and these flavors dissolve easily into water. That is wonderful on your tongue, and it is exactly the problem in the pot. When you drop an ear of corn into a big pot of boiling water, you surround every kernel with a flood of hot water. And hot water is hungry for those sugars. Through the same gentle pull that draws salt or sugar out of anything soaked long enough, the water begins to leach the sweetness and the flavor out of the kernels and into the pot. The longer it boils and the more water it swims in, the more of its goodness the corn gives up to the water. Then you lift out the corn and pour the pot down the drain, and all that dissolved sweetness, that faintly golden sugary water, goes with it. You did not cook the flavor into the corn. You cooked it out. There is a second, smaller loss too. Fresh, sweet corn, from the moment it is picked, slowly turns its sugar into starch. That is why corn is sweetest the day it is picked, and why an old ear tastes bland. Long boiling in hot water hurries some of that softening along and can leave the kernels waterlogged and dull rather than crisp and bright. So the boil works against you twice. Now the hopeful part, which is the whole lesson. If water pulls the flavor out, then the answer is simply to cook the corn with as little water touching it as possible. Cook it in gentle steam, or in its own husk, or over dry heat on a griddle, and the sugars have nowhere to escape to. They stay locked in the kernel, where they belong. Keep the water away, and you keep the sweetness. That is the entire secret, and now it is yours. Now, what you need? Almost nothing. You need corn, of course. The fresher the better, for the sweetest corn is the corn picked most recently. If you can, buy it in the husk, and buy it the day you will eat it. You need a pot with a lid for steaming, or an oven or a microwave for the husk method, or a griddle, grill, or heavy pan for the Japanese grilled way. And for that grilled way, a little soy sauce, and butter if you like. That is all. Let me give you the 3 methods now, one at a time. The first method, steaming. This is the simplest. and the one to try first, because it is nearly foolproof and it changes everything. Instead of filling a big pot with water, pour in only an inch or two, just enough to make steam, not enough to touch the corn. Set a steamer basket, or even a few crumpled balls of foil, in the bottom to hold the corn up out of the water. Bring the water to a boil, lay the shucked corn on top, put the lid on tight, and let the steam do the work. In about 7 to 10 minutes, the corn is tender and hot, and because it never sat in the water, its sweetness stayed inside. This one change, plainly, is the difference between flat corn and corn that tastes like summer. The second method, cooking it in its own husk. This is my favorite, for it is the least work of all, and the husk protects the corn like a wrapper made for exactly this purpose. Take the corn with its green husk still on just as it came from the field. Do not shuck it. In the oven lay the whole ears, husk and all, right on the rack, and roast at around 400 degrees for about 30 minutes. In a microwave, cook 1 or 2 husk-on ears for a few minutes each. Either way, the husk traps the corn's own moisture and steams it gently from within in its own juices, with no added water at all to wash anything away. When it is done, the husk peels back easily, and here is a small gift. The silk, those stringy threads, comes away with the husk, almost cleanly, sparing you the fussy picking. The corn inside is sweet, deep, and perfect. Let me place one quiet thing here. The way Yuki keeps a small notebook by her stove where she has written the timings that came out best, the minutes for the oven, the minutes for the steam, so a good ear of corn is never left to guesswork. Keep your own small record. Your hand will learn it, and the paper will hold it until it does. The third method, the Japanese grilled corn, what we call yaki tomorokoshi. This is the one sold at every summer festival here, and the smell of it carries across the whole fairground. It is cooked over dry heat, so again, no water touches it, and it is brushed with soy sauce until the sugars and the soy caramelize into something smoky and deeply sweet. Here is how. First, steam or husk cook the corn until it is nearly tender, by one of the ways above. Then lay it on a hot grill, or a griddle, or a heavy dry pan, and turn it until it takes on golden and brown marks. Now brush it with a little soy sauce, and if you like, a mix of soy sauce and a touch of butter or sugar, and let it sizzle and char just slightly at the edges, turning so it does not burn. The soy sauce browns and the corn's own sugar caramelizes, and together they make a flavor no plain boiled ear could ever give you. That is the taste people stand in line for. Now, the honest scope. What to watch, so it comes out right and safe. With steaming, keep an eye on the water so the pot does not boil dry and scorch. Add a splash more if it runs low. With the husk method in the oven, remember the husks are dry and the oven is hot. Keep them away from any open flame or heating element, and do not leave them unwatched, for dry husk can scorch. With the microwave, the corn and the trapped steam come out very hot, so peel the husk back carefully, away from your face, to let the steam escape before it reaches your hand. And with grilling, brush the soy sauce on near the end rather than the start, because soy sauce and sugar burn quickly over high heat. Add them too soon, and they turn bitter and black instead of sweet and golden. Watch it, turn it, and take it off while it is still glistening. And one plain word on freshness, for it matters here more than safety ever will. Corn loses its sweetness by the hour after picking, so cook it as soon as you can after you buy it, and if you must keep it a day or two, Keep it cold in the refrigerator, in its husk, which slows the sugar's turn to starch. A cold-kept husk-on ear holds its sweetness far better than one left warm on the counter. Now mate nai, the heart of all this, using the whole ear, wasting nothing. For here is a thing that will surprise you. Almost none of the corn plant needs to go in the bin. Start with the cob itself, the bare cob after the kernels are eaten or cut away. Do not throw it out. That stripped cob is full of corn flavor, and simmered in water it makes a sweet, delicate corn broth, a stock you can use as the base for a corn soup or for cooking rice, giving the whole pot a gentle sweetness. In my home, the cobs from tonight's corn become the soup of tomorrow. Nothing of the sweetness is lost, not even from the part everyone discards. The husks, too, have their uses. The clean green husks can be used to wrap other foods for steaming, holding in moisture and lending a faint grassy sweetness, the way people around the world have long wrapped little parcels of food in corn husk to cook. And the silk, those fine threads, is gathered and dried in some traditions and steeped as a mild tea. Even the water you did use for steaming, if you cooked corn in it, holds a little sweetness and can go into a soup rather than down the drain. And of course the kernels themselves stretch far. Corn cut from leftover cooked ears goes into rice, into soups, into a simple fried dish with a little soy sauce, into a savory pancake. 12 ears of summer corn, treated this way, becomes corn on the cob tonight. Corn soup tomorrow from the cobs, corn stirred through rice the day after. The whole ear, from silk to cob, gives everything it has. That is mate nai, standing at the summer stove. Now the honest math. Plainly, corn is not where you will save the most money. It is cheap already, and that is its joy. In season at a farm stand, sweet corn runs perhaps 25 to 50 cents an ear, sometimes less by the dozen. So the saving here is smaller in coins and larger in worth. You save the butter and salt you no longer need to pour on to fake the sweetness you used to boil away. A small thing across a summer, but real. You save the cobs that become a free pot of soup, a whole second meal from what you would have thrown out. And most of all, you get the full value of every ear you buy instead of pouring a third of its goodness down the drain. Plainly, you were already paying for that sweetness. Now you finally get to taste it. So here is what I ask you to do this week. The next time you bring home corn, do not fill the big pot. Instead, put just an inch of water in a pot with a lid, hold the corn up out of it on a steamer or a bit of crumpled foil, and steam it 7 to 10 minutes. Or simpler still, roast an ear in its own husk in the oven. Taste it with nothing on it at all, before any butter. Taste how sweet it is on its own. That single ear will tell you, better than all my words, everything this lesson has been about. And tell me something in the comments. When you were young, how did your mother or your grandmother cook the summer corn? Was there a way in your family? Roasted in the coals? Cooked in the husk? Some trick with the pot that made it taste the way you still remember? Those small summer ways are exactly the kind of wisdom that vanishes when no one writes it down. Share yours. I read every single one. Next time, since today we learned to keep all the sweetness in the corn, I will show you how Yuki takes those bare cobs and a few humble things and makes a sweet, golden corn soup that costs almost nothing, a whole meal from what most people throw away. The same care, the same waste-nothing heart. Subscribe so you do not miss it. Until then, remember the whole of it in one breath. Set down the big boiling pot. Cook the corn in gentle steam or in its own husk, so the water never washes its sugar away, and the flat corn you drowned in butter becomes the sweet, deep ear it was always meant to be.